CROSSFIRE, Dario Casali's masterpiece. This map has grown to become the face of Half-Life's deathmatch multiplayer mode as a whole. But why? Why CROSSFIRE of all maps? What is it about this bizarre, cut-up hodgepodge of concrete hallways and a chunk of surface tension that has captivated people for so long? And is it even any good to begin with? Well, let's get into it. So, starting with the basics, what is CROSSFIRE? Well, it's a bizarre, cut-up hodgepodge of concrete hallways and a chunk of surface tension. Really. You can broadly separate the map into these two halves, the first being pretty standard deathmatch fare with an open middle and a lot of side paths that connect to each other, filled with all kinds of goodies. Every path that doesn't lead to a dead end boils down to a little loop that intersects with the middle of the map, improving the flow and letting players seamlessly run through it without allowing them to just hide away in the background and avoid conflict altogether, while also improving predictability. The other paths lead to dead ends or spots where you can only backtrack or jump down. These spots have the best weapons, and therefore reward players for essentially cornering themselves by allowing them to kill any potential pursuers immediately and come out stronger than they were before. However, CROSSFIRE is unique in that most of these spots with the high-value weapons aren't truly dead ends. They're on balconies, directly facing each other and the central area. Because of this, not only is the flow improved even further because you can deviate from these predictable paths for cleaner, faster navigation at the cost of putting yourself in the line of fire, you can also make your own paths using epic gamer techniques like bunny hopping, tow jumping, long jumping, or jumping. It actively rewards your mastery of the game's fundamental mechanics, and therefore, as the TF2 video essayists say, raises the skill ceiling. All of this is to say, the Courtyard section is incredibly successful as a deathmatch map, doing all those cool things a good deathmatch map needs to do. Compare it to any other good multiplayer arena, and you'll see the same things, like how Quake places its quad damage power-up slightly out of the way. Trust me, in Quake especially, the 5 seconds it'll take to duck in and out of a cranny really can mean the difference between life and death. But that's only half the story, literally. I was just talking about this part, remember? Has that information left your brain yet? It's totally gone from mine. I'm writing this at 5:57 in the morning, and I'm recording it at 12:44 in the afternoon, in case you needed to know. This other half of the map is kind of unusual, because rather than being built like a deathmatch map, it's built to facilitate gimmicks. There aren't any respawn points on this entire half of the map. It's got a big open area lifted from surface tension for players to use these turrets on, and one loop at the very back of this bunker that leads to a button that sets off all the sirens, slowly closes the bunker door, and calls in an airstrike that insta-kills every player who isn't inside. That's, well, it's certainly a choice for a deathmatch map, I'll give it that. But wait, what if I told you that it's like this because CROSSFIRE was never meant to be a deathmatch map? What if I told you that this Team Fortress 2-ass gimmick is, in fact, not meant for a PvE deathmatch map, but is, in fact, meant for team deathmatch? That's right, the CROSSFIRE you know is a lie, it shouldn't exist! Modern CROSSFIRE was conjured by Valve's lack of clarity on what the fuck HLDM even is! So, let's back up. CROSSFIRE was not among the 8 deathmatch maps included in Half-Life at launch. The map choices we have in modern Half-Life for deathmatch are just the ones that passed the vibe check when Valve added the game to Steam. We were robbed of such classics as Zen DM, the one with the big PC Gamer logo on it, and Rustmill, which actually looks really cool and I have no clue why it didn't make it in. There's a lot more I could say on this mode, enough for an entire second video if this one does well, hint hint, but let's stick to the thing in the title for now. CROSSFIRE was added in an update on January 13th, 1999, which focused heavily on a new team play mode for deathmatch, and included Gasworks and Frenzy as well. Why push an update for 3 maps and risk setting off everyone's dial-up modems in the process? Well, it wasn't even really about the maps. From what I can gather, the main purpose of the update was to reduce lag and optimize their online networks and all that. Oh, except for the part where they make it really obvious that this is all a big ad for their upcoming Team Fortress Classic and Team Fortress 2, both slated for release within the same year. Yeah, you heard me. CROSSFIRE is little more than a third of an excuse to fix bugs and talk to fan sites about another game, if you want to be cynical anyway. They do seem pretty excited about the map too.
CROSSFIRE is a total blast. When the sirens go off warning people that the airstrike is coming in, everyone scrambles for the bunker. And, well, it's a lot of fun sitting in the tower with the emplacement cannon.
A lot of this indicates a very different, team-oriented form of gameplay for CROSSFIRE that I've never actually seen in action before. Imagine 2 teams of a dozen people, the beginning of the match an utter bloodbath in the center of the main arena as the teams gather resources before one runs off and takes control of the bunker, shifting the gameplay to an attack-defend kind of rhythm afterward. You'd have the attacking team making pushes to slowly whittle down the defending snipers from their towers and send them back into the main part of the map where they have no chance to escape and rejoin their team until enough of them have been killed that they can fight together in the arena again. This sounds fun, someone should make a game like this. But alas, these days, Half-Life's team deathmatch mode is all but forgotten. That's okay though, because this kind of rhythm will still emerge in your average casual map of CROSSFIRE, if not quite as spectacular as the thing I made up just now. With a few more players, the match turns into an all-out brawl, constant fragging going on in this main part of the map. It's rare for a life to last longer than a minute unless you can get your bearings and pick up a bunch of weapons to go on a tear with. Bodies will be flying left and right. It's truly the most intense kind of deathmatch you'll play outside of Entryway on Doom 2. But inevitably, the fragfest will come to an end when someone slinks off to the other side of the map, activating the airstrike and sending everyone else into a frenzy to reach the bunker first and claim some level of control and safety, while everyone else is wiped off the map in a single instant. Then, it's right back to fighting like nothing happened. It can even scale down further to a 1v1, where the players can either agree to stay in the main section of the map, or turn it into a tiny version of that team fight I was talking about before, trying to snipe each other or just run right past all the cannon fire. I think this is why CROSSFIRE has endured as long as it has. It scales extremely well, the main map is small enough that you can learn it within minutes, and the design itself leads players down these exhilarating storylines. It's easy to look at deathmatch as something mindless, where players just duke it out forever, their lives determined by spawn luck and 1 or 2 obscure movement mechanics baked into an engine that clearly wasn't designed for this. But maps like CROSSFIRE show that, when done well, the developer's guiding hand can lead players to experiences just as meaningful and unique as any good single-player campaign. This is how good PvP multiplayer works. This is why game modes like TF2's Payload are so endlessly replayable. And this, I believe, is why CROSSFIRE has endured as the face of Half-Life Deathmatch for over 2 decades. So, what's happened since? CROSSFIRE's legacy has been long and fruitful. The map spawned a sequel called Double Cross, also by Dario Casali, which is kinda just a weird, alternate version of its predecessor. You can tell it's the same kind of thing, especially on the Fortress side, but I find it far less memorable. Even less memorable is Runoff, a Half-Life 2 deathmatch map that also takes a notable part from the campaign and turns it into a multiplayer battleground with a big bunker you can use to call an airstrike. Difference is, this one lacks the tightly packed exterior that CROSSFIRE and good HL2 DM maps like Overwatch have. It's just way too big, man. The animated airstrike is a nice touch, though. Then there's everyone's favorite game, Half-Life Deathmatch Source, featuring the triumphant return of the original CROSSFIRE remastered for the Source engine. This one has new Source engine enhancements, like a 3D skybox, some glass that'll last all of 5 seconds per round, rougher terrain, more varied textures in the different buildings, and redesigned cannons. It also features some Half-Life Source exclusive enhancements, like the fact the cannons don't function at all. Really, they just don't work. They just don't work! This whole game is one of Valve's weirdest products, and not just because they cleaved a chunk of Half-Life's content off to sell for $10 separately. I think this game might actually be haunted. Like, I found this one server frozen in time, all the glass shattered, filled with these phantom satchel charges placed by people who no longer exist, leading to the back of the bunker. Moving over to Team Fortress Classic, we have a map called Hunted based on the same section of surface tension that became CROSSFIRE, this time incorporating all of it into its layout. This was meant for the VIP game mode, where you lead the civilian, a weak guy with an umbrella, from one side of the map to the other, and an opposing team of snipers would try to kill him off. And due to the recent Source repo leak, I can show you this, an unfinished official remake of Hunted within TF2. This might be one of the strangest things I've seen in a long time, one of my favorite parts of Half-Life completely remade in this cartoony style, with a totally different kind of landscape. I can only imagine this is what hopping on TF2's Dust Bowl felt like for a big TFC fan. In the end though, the VIP mode was completely cut from TF2 before being reimagined into the payload mode we know today. But the civilian did make an appearance in a piece of official TF2 content eventually, right here.
Boom. Hit shot.
Of course, while I've made the connection between Crossfire's intended gameplay and TF2, I'm not saying that Crossfire is, like, responsible for Team Fortress 2 existing or anything. The old Team Fortress Quake mod predates Half-Life entirely. This is more likely a case of Team Fortress gameplay accidentally bleeding into a Half-Life game mode because of all the shared developers. Dario Casali himself went on to contribute to several TF2 maps, which actually led to a pretty interesting story. Check out this German Peter video for more on that. And then watch his newer non-TF2 content because it's even better. Outside of official stuff, Crossfire has seen a metric ton of tweaked versions and remakes for HLDM, TF2, Minecraft, CSGO, a ton of mods, and a million other games, I'm sure. One of the more interesting fan projects related to it is MapLab's TestTube 12, a mapping competition that tasked its contestants with remaking Crossfire as a single-player map in Half-Life 2 Episode 2's engine, to eventually be judged by Dario Casali himself. It's been almost 2 years and he has yet to judge these maps. But they're out, you can play them, and a lot of them are really, really good. I talked more about MapLabs and other Half-Life mods in my last video, so go check that out. And while we're on the topic of legacy, we may as well get into my legacy. This fucking little animation that you all love so much. I didn't even record this, I just took Marvy's upload of a fucking demo. There's a surprising amount to talk about here for a deathmatch map. As we've discussed, Crossfire features a large chunk of a surface tension map, because it started off as a modification of this area. As far as this spot from the campaign goes, we have 2 early screenshots of what might be it, and one that's definitely it, covered in these explosive barrels. This whole segment of surface tension, from this fight after the cliffs all the way to the chapter's ending, is called the Topside Motor Pool. And a cut scientist line indicates that the Gargantua was meant to be placed on this helipad at some point.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. You are Gordon Freeman, aren't you? The one they're expecting in the Lambda complex? If you can figure a way past that Gargantua on the landing field and through the bunker door out there, you'll find yourself at the Lambda Lab's doorstep.
We also have 2 early screenshots that appear to show this encounter, one of which was used as the preview for the game's video settings menu back on the CD release, a feature which is sorely lacking in the Steam version and contributes to how trashy this game looks when you just start it up without making any tweaks. Hashtag restore the old gold source menu, Valve. I will not be purchasing a single Counter-Strike crate until this issue has been resolved. Valve seems incredibly proud of this segment of the game in particular, considering how much they iterated and reused it, and they should be. It packs in like a dozen memorable moments and set pieces, helping to turn surface tension into one of the game's most memorable chapters. But back to Crossfire itself. We have a hidden room that can't be accessed at all, with a crossbow and a few health and armor pickups above the spot where its door would be. According to Dario, whose signature you can find outside the map's bounds, they literally didn't have time to delete it from the file before the update went live, so they settled for making it impossible to access instead. If you load the map into single player, you might be surprised by 3 Barneys standing around in seemingly random spots. I honestly couldn't tell you what these guys are here for.
Hello.
If I had to guess, I'd say they might be there for scale. Ask anyone working in any version of Valve's mapping programs, and they'll tell you that plopping an info player start or a player-sized NPC into a room is common practice to ensure the scale matches up while mapping. And one final note, Crossfire has an issue where its sky texture isn't set properly in the engine, so it'll either load this default one that fits pretty well, or whatever the last map skybox was, which may not fit at all. So, to conclude, let's answer one of the questions I started this video asking. Is Crossfire actually a good map, in any objective sense? I don't know. There are far more balanced maps for Deathmatch in Half-Life, and the fact that half the revision maps you can find removes the airstrike entirely shows that not everything Valve attempted with this hit it out of the park, especially for any kind of balanced competition. But you know what Crossfire is perfect for? LAN parties, or jumping on a server 20 years after release for a good time. Casual fun for casual players. If I had to liken it to a more familiar source-based example, this is Half-Life's Hightower. It's a fucking mess, and people will actively try to prevent you from playing it the way the devs intended, but it's just a ton of fun. And that's why Crossfire is the Half-Life deathmatch map. Hey, thank you very much for watching. This is the first time I've ever dipped more than a toe into Half-Life's deathmatch for one of these videos, so let me know what you thought of it, and if you'd like to see another video exploring the rest of the mode in the comments below. While you're there, hit the like button, subscribe, join my Discord, all that. And as always,
I will see you up ahead.